Guys. So I wanted to take a few minutes and just jump on today real quick and do a little video for you. A lot of changes happening. We're still in the process of the Freedom Code activations, which, as I had mentioned before, is always going to feel stronger here in the United States since this is where the activation needs to take place. And because of certain energies, much of what is transpiring throughout the world that we're seeing now is also taking place here in the United States. Um, the timelines and the energies that are presenting and the significance of all of what we're feeling. And this is centuries of, enslavement in many, many ways, right? It's not just from one perspective of the actual physical slavery. This is enslavement in many, many facets across many timelines. So we have to be conscious of that as this is starting to come into its heightened stages, because I do feel like we're getting to a point where we're kind of like at that tipping point and it's going to get a little bit worse before it might get better, right? We also have to remember this is not a political war at all. It has nothing to do with politics. This is a war of really the light and the dark, the good versus the evil, right? Because we have been in a state of repression throughout the world, not just here, where there have been people that have had a dark agenda that were manipulating much that we have experienced all of our lives in what we have perceived as our reality without our awareness or without knowing that this was taking place. Many didn't hold an awareness to, you know, certain rights not being offered to us, and that we merely are being looked at for our ability to cast a vote when necessary, and really don't have much of a voice beyond that. And I know that those of us that are in the state of New York are really feeling that very strongly, because we're seeing that, especially in New York City and Manhattan, not being supported by the government in any way, right? So it is at the level of the mayor and the governor to come in and enforce some kind of curfew and curb the chaos that's taking place, and they are just not stepping up to the plate to do that. So we're seeing a lot of emotions being transacted now across the board in many ways. And again, these are all the different timelines, these different frequencies that are coming up that, have to do with um, uh, repression and, the feeling the right to be heard and needing your voice to be heard among the masses. And even when we see people defacing statues and buildings and everything else, it's it's an anger, a form of anger coming out in them taking part or participating in that way. And so if you think about it from, many facets, each person, each individual is expressing themselves in whatever way they're feeling most comfortable doing that. For me, I'm sharing through videos, I'm sharing through writings, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm doing some blog posting. I'm trying to share as much information to keep everybody focused to the higher timelines, because what we're seeing is the separation of the old third dimensional matrix, the paradigm that we've all lived under, where it was a lot of repression. And so now what we're seeing is that is not working anymore, and people are wanting more freedom. And so as we go through this evolutionary process, we're timed very importantly by the different aspects in the solar system. And I'm not an astrologer, but it is very important and timely for this full moon that we're going to have tomorrow on Friday, because it's a lunar eclipse. It starts the eclipse corridor or the eclipse passageway. And so we have the lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, then we have a solar eclipse in Cancer, and then another lunar eclipse in, I believe, Capricorn. And this is really setting the stage for where we are evolving to. This is like all truths must come up and become aware by all in order for us to go through a rebirthing process and step into a new reality with a new way of being, a new aspect of ourselves. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing this death that is happening to our country. It's devastating to watch. And if you are not watching from the perspective of a conscious observer, then you might actually participate in a very emotional way. And that will just keep you spiraled and locked into that third dimension that's trying to dissolve. And so we have to, in all of this, stay focused on the higher timelines. We have to keep our sights higher so that we're tuning into that frequency and we're merely being a conscious observer of everything that is playing out in the lower realities. That requires a lot of practice to do. I'm not going to lie to you. The moments where I might get caught up in something, feeling angry, and I suddenly realize that anger is a third dimensional perspective, because when we're looking at duality from the perspective of anger, for if the opposite is going to be being happy, right? So we have anger and being angry and being happy. And so I have to keep reminding myself that that is just an aspect of that third dimensional dualistic um, timeline that's pulling out of our field. And so that could feel really uncomfortable, but when you start to recognize it and you start to go through the process of it, it could be very helpful in understanding where you are in everything that you're experiencing. So divine neutrality is always where we want to get. And I find myself more and more in divine neutrality more of the time. I want to say 80% of the time. And that 20% of the time, I let myself get aggravated with what is taking place. And then I remind myself, oh, I'm not in divine neutrality. I've stepped back into that third dimension, which needs to clear my field. And in that moment, I'm allowing that process to transact, because I'm having the awareness that it's needing to clear my field, and I let it do so through my frustration. So as we're experiencing all of this, it is probably going to get a little more intense. It doesn't mean that we have to play into that, right? I heard helicopters over my house yesterday for probably about 2 hours. And I didn't play into the fear factor. I merely held myself as an observer, noticing what was taking place, and just kept saying, I am safe. That is the reality that is playing out around me. That's not my reality. I'm not choosing that. Because if we look at it from the law of attraction or the law of one, then our vibration is what we attract. So if we are angry or feeling frustrated and staying in that lower, denser vibration, letting ourselves be fueled by the things that we're hearing that we don't like, then we're going to attract those things to us. There's no doubt about that, because that's how the law of attraction works. You attract into your reality what you are vibrating at, right? So wherever your vibration is what you attract in. If it's low, you attract the things that are not so good, the things that are more negative. And if your vibration is higher, you attract those things in that are more beneficial to you, that are carrying a higher vibration to it. Okay. And so we want to have a great awareness of that. That's really significant at this time. We want to understand that what we're seeing play out is really a movie that is taking place, because this has all been completed already from another perspective. This has all been completed. The play was written. It is cast. It is happening around us. And so if you go back to my video from the other day, you'll see that I talked about ways in which we can move beyond this and in recognizing that we're watching a movie playing out in front of us and we're not needing to participate in that movie. And, for those of you that are having that playing out right in front of you, let's say in Manhattan, right, where you're having that very physical experience in your reality right in front of you, then it's a matter of choice. Do I leave my residence and go out and try to engage and defend what is taking place? Or do I stay in my residence and merely sit back and be an observer to others who are feeling the need to go out there and defend their space and stand up, right? And so this is a really big challenge that we're faced. And from one perspective, not everybody is meant to go out there and be the champion in this. Okay. There are those who are already assigned to this, and that would be the police officers and the government agencies that are hired, the National Guard, whatever, right? And so we're in a position, many of us at this level, where we don't have the ability to make those kinds of decisions. We just don't. We don't have that kind of power. And if you're feeling frustrated, the things that you can do would be to sit back and hold light and sit in meditation and see the earth held in some beautiful crystalline light, or the Christed light, or Christ consciousness, or the archangels surrounding the earth, or whatever it is that's going to make you feel more comfortable. But that's one way of supporting this process without having to go in and physically be in the process. Another way to support this process would be to, you know, um, uh, maybe post something positive. If you have social media, post some positive things, sending out feedback, or maybe, offering, if you're in the work and you're doing the work, offering a meditation or something like that, or just holding the light even is a good thing, right? And so we want to participate in whatever way that is most highly aligned with us. And again, not everybody is meant to go out there and fight the good fight. I do not feel the need or feel called to go out there with a megaphone and start yelling at people. And I don't feel called to go into the middle of, Manhattan and do any of that there. I think this is where we have to look and say, how is this needing to play out in my reality for me? How is this needing to, um, be presented for my ability to clear whatever is needing to clear through me? So from one perspective, if you're identifying with any of the movements taking place, identify with what the movement represents, right? In the case of Black Lives Matter, identify with what the movement represents. It's a movement to be heard. It's requesting that, voices be heard. I am important. I matter, right? It's I don't believe that the movement was about destroying or defacing property or anything. I have seen this movement throughout my years, and the demonstrations, for the most part, have been peaceful. But I think there's something else taking place here, where there is an infiltration of another organization that has kind of commingled into that is now making it very violent and vicious, right? So if you want to do something that aligns you more fully with that movement, choose the heart of that movement and not what is playing out in the reality, because that's not correct what is happening. That is bringing this up to a head so that everybody could have the awareness in the collective consciousness on a collective level. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to get involved at that level and go out there and participate and spray paint anything or throw rocks or bricks or anything like that, right? And this is where you have to sit in alignment with you, go into your heart center and say, what is my truth here? What is aligned for me? Do I feel called to participate in that way, in a very physicalized way? Or do I recognize myself as a sovereign being, and I can hold the light from where I am and offer that light to the collective shift, to that fifth dimensional perspective, which is where we're all heading to. Okay. Now, I do know that we have anchored a tremendous amount of rainbow light consciousness, that rainbow light frequency, that is the rainbow bridge portal that's on the earth, right? That is now anchored in, and it gives us the ability to actually experience fourth dimensional consciousness, which is why some cannot differentiate between when they're dreaming and then being in a lucid dream or being present in their reality. We're seeing a lot of this taking place. And I myself am experiencing a lot of that as I'm shifting more into the consciousness of 5D, right? We're in that vacillation back and forth because, as I've said before, we don't stay in any one place. We're always moving back and forth and flow with the energies that are presenting around us and are in our field. And so if you look at that rainbow light frequency that is presenting right now, it's also presenting as a portal or as a gateway for those that will be departing this earth plane through their soul's contract, because some of us are choosing to exit the earth as part of this experience, as part of the global awakening, and we have to honor those souls as well. Okay. And remember, at the end of the day, everything, all of it, creates an opportunity for us to be consciously aware. Okay. So in this whole experience, I am noticing that there are people that are stepping forward in my reality that are really wanting to be heard. And how they're doing this, the transaction, how it's being presented, is being presented through the egoic brain, right? That reptilian left brain, which says, hey, I am important. Um, this I'm better than this. I'm more than this. You should do more for me, or give me more, or offer more, or be more attentive to my needs. And that's just this energy playing out. So if you are experiencing that coming to you, then just know that that is part of the energy that those individuals are clearing. It's also part of your process of clearing, asking you to become more aligned, asking you to listen to what they are requesting, listen to what they are needing, and then meet it with that compassionate heart, but letting them have this awareness that maybe what they're requesting isn't alignment with the highest timeline, and that there might still be something that is being overlooked, right? So even for myself, when I am presented with challenges, I'm looking at it from the highest heart, from the higher heart space, and saying, is this presenting for me to shift, for them to shift, or for both of us to shift? Okay, because there's always work to do in all facets for all parties involved. So we all need to take a look at this, and we need to see where we're doing something that maybe we shouldn't be doing because it's creating another dynamic that is not really good for the other person. Or maybe there's something that we're not doing that would really benefit somebody else or something else in the sense, right? So when you're going through this, please take a look at everything that is presenting in your reality and see where your truth lies, because we're in a process now of coming into our truth in this awakening process. And we're coming into our truth, and we're identifying what is true for me. Where does my truth lie? Is this really a part of who I am? And that's really important. And it's going to be even more important going forward. Okay. When we're finding ourselves impatient with those around us or impatient with our own process, it's because we're becoming impatient with what is happening in our reality and wanting to check out to something else that feels more comfortable or that feels more highly aligned. But that is really presenting as an amazing opportunity for us to go deeper and see what is it that I'm not having patience for, right? When we're not having patience, or we're having procrastination, those are aspects of resistance, right? Being in resistance. So when we're having a lack of patience, it's because we're in resistance to what is needing our attention in that moment now. When we're having procrastination, we're in resistance to something that we're needing to do that maybe we're feeling uncomfortable about. And what we're feeling uncomfortable about that we're wanting to put off is really because we're holding fear towards it. Okay. So in that moment where we're procrastinating, we may be also dealing with some fear, and we have to look at that and become aware of that, right? In everything that's playing out for us in our reality. So hopefully there's something here that helps. And remember that what you're seeing playing out around us is the chaos that needs to be transacted. Hold the higher timeline, hold the 5D perspective that shows this not coming to you personally, not touching you personally, but merely looking at this as an observer as a movie playing out in front of you. If it comes close to you, it's a determination or a decision as to whether or not you are wanting to step into the role that engages it. I'm going to encourage you not to. If you do not have to, do not, because it is merely that old third dimensional matrix that is trying to dissolve, that is trying to be released. And it's releasing from everything. It's releasing from Gaia. It's releasing from our fields. Okay. So we have to be very cognizant of that. And I think that's pretty much what I have for today. So for those of you that want to stay in touch, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. And if you want to be notified of new videos, you can click the bell and you will get notified every time I post a new video. And you can uh, follow along with my blogs by signing up for my newsletter. That newsletter will contain different offerings that I have, classes and whatnot for you, and information, because sometimes I'll write a blog and I'll put it in there, and likewise with the videos. So please, whatever you're doing, make sure that you're in your awareness. Be a conscious observer. Don't feel like you need to play or participate in what is transpiring around you. It's very important that we hold the higher light and the whole higher vibration, because the experience that's playing out around us is going to do so with or without our participation. Okay, so it's really important for you to understand how you're needing to participate in all of this. Okay, and so also for those of you that have been supporting the work, taking the classes, booking a session, or even those of you that have been offering donations, I am so super grateful for that. It's just wonderful that you support my work in that way, because it really helps me out, keeps everything up and running. Okay. So just know that we are all in this together, because there's really like no place else to go, but we are in this together. We might not all be in the same boat, meaning that our reality is not playing out in the same way, right? So if you're in Manhattan and you're watching the city being destroyed, then certainly if I'm not in Manhattan, I'm not having that same experience, but yet we all are, because we're all seeing what's taking place. Okay. So just stay in your awareness, tune into the higher timelines. Remember to call on your guides, and hold a higher picture of everything resolving more quickly, because when we do that as a collective, we shift it, and we're already in those higher timelines playing that shift out. So keep the faith. Okay, I'm going to keep bringing you updates as I get them. Know that I love you guys so much, and I'm so grateful for each one of you. I really am. Be good to each other, be good to yourself, and stay safe. Okay, I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.